was a royal welcome for Britain's Prince William as he kicks off his 4-day visit to China, the final stop on his Asian tour. His arrival in Beijing marks the first official visit to the Chinese mainland by a British royal in almost 3 decades. It's hoped the high-profile visit will help improve relations and bring the two countries closer together.
British royalty in a Chinese palace. Prince William's visit to the Forbidden City, the imperial palace of the Ming and Qing dynasties, was a celebration of China's past. But his most important appointment was in China's modern seat of power, the Great Hall of the People. As Chinese President Xi Jinping welcomed the prince to China, William delivered an important message, an official invitation from Queen Elizabeth for Xi to make a state visit to Britain. Xi is expected to go to London later this year for a visit that could include a stay at Buckingham Palace. The friendly meeting even saw the two men discussing their mutual love of football. William's high-profile 4-day trip was a long time coming. The last official visit by senior British royalty was when William's grandparents, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, came to China in 1986. Ahead of his visit, William posted a video message wishing the country and its people a happy Chinese New Year.
I will launch the Great Festival of Creativity, which marks the start of the year of cultural exchange between our two countries. My warmest wishes to you all for the Year of the Sheep. Junimen Chunzia Kuala Yang Nian Daji.
Prince William has a busy schedule ahead of him. He'll officially open the Grand Festival of Creativity in Shanghai, a celebration of innovation highlighting business ties between the two nations. He'll then cap off his tour with a visit to the southwestern province of Yunnan, where wildlife protection is the order of the day. His tour is seen by both sides as an opportunity to improve diplomatic relations.
We hope that this visit will enhance the British royal family's understanding of China, enhance friendship between the British people and the Chinese people, and promote Sino-British relations in the coming year to a new level of development.
This year has been designated as the year of China-UK cultural exchanges, and both Beijing and London are making the most of the opportunity. A key element of William's trip is promoting business innovation and creating opportunities for British companies expanding in China. The prince's visit has economic, cultural, and political implications, as the two nations hope to solidify what, for both sides, is an increasingly important relationship.
Prince William in China. For more on this, we are joined in the Beijing studio by Mr. Cui Hongjian, who is a research fellow at the China Institute of International Studies. Welcome, sir. Meanwhile, joining us from in Hong Kong, we have Mr. Scott Lash. He's a professor of sociology and cultural studies at the Goldsmiths, that's University of London, specialist in Chinese studies. Gentlemen, welcome to our program. Interesting story, isn't it, where the Prince William is? Usually there is a lot of cameras and a lot of screaming coming from the crowd. We wonder whether that will be also the scene on the Beijing streets. But having said that, may I ask you first, Professor Lash, why some of the other constitutional monarchies seems to be losing their influence in the world, at least in domestic politics. However, it seems that the British royal family is still remaining its edge here and influence somewhat, at least on the social pages.
Okay, thank you for inviting me. It's largely the media. I mean, there's no way that any other country's media cover the royal family to the same extent that the British one does. And I think also in Britain, even though people don't say straight out they are monarchists, there is an allegiance and a symbolic allegiance to the royal family that you just don't get in other countries in Europe.
Right, but here in China, Duke of Cambridge is not necessarily a household name, I would say. Yeah. Even though he is popular together with his wife for the Chinese urbanites, people see them in the paparazzi newspapers. But what does this mean? 30 years later, Prince William in China, what would this mean for the Chinese looking at him, shaking hands with the Chinese president, say, who is he and why is he here?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, firstly, Prince William will come to China, firstly. But also, so far, according to the media, especially from UK media, say that, okay, the one of the most important trip by Prince William, because as we understand, these 2 years, this royal family, especially Prince William and his wife, visited so many countries for a kind of very important part of this royal family diplomacy. But why this time is in China? I think, of course, it's in a time of how to say, a very good relations is coming for China and the UK. So this visit by William would be a very important part of this China-UK relations.
Is it really a good time? I mean, just a few years ago, because the then Prime Minister was talking about the Dalai Lama, which of course is a very sensitive political issue here in China. I'm not sure whether he realized it when he was talking about that. And just a few months ago, when the British government, or at least some government officials, personally supported the protesters in Hong Kong, which the mainland does not necessarily regard as a legitimate demonstration going on then. So it seems that the relations soured a bit. The question is, Mr. Cui, how much will this handsome Prince William be able to mend the relations and bring it onto a next level?
Yeah, exactly. I think that we have to be familiar with this new normal situation for China and the UK.
What is that new normal you're talking about?
Firstly, more and more important, especially for economic and trade relations between two countries. But of course, always there are some gap of perceptions in some especially political issues. So we have to maybe from both two sides keep this balance. But anyway, I think this visit by William, anyway, it's a good message,
all right,
especially from the royal family of UK to China.
Well, Professor Lash, if the Chinese are getting ever more matured with their politics, or at least matured with their attitude toward others, perceptions about China, then do you think those inside the UK are ready for that? Different political parties in the parliament, for example, are they ready for the next stage?
On the one hand, I think that it's got to do with, so much of this has to do with UK politics and with David Cameron's relationship with Europe. And because the UK isn't as close to the rest of Europe, as we know, as the continent is, he is trying to diversify his international relations. So as not just to be part of the US alliance, it's very, very important for the UK to have strong links to China and India, especially these, the BRIC countries, these fast growing economies. So I think we have to understand what's going on as part of that. I mean, the other thing, China never intervened in terms of the independence vote in Scotland. So you can understand why there might be some upset in terms of kind of Hong Kong and Tibet intervention. I mean, I can understand it, but on the other hand, it wouldn't be well received if China intervened in the Scotland independence vote. So it's completely understandable.
Interesting. The question is then, Professor Lash, what's next? Because Prince William, this time coming to China, already presented to the Chinese President, Mr. Xi Jinping, a letter coming from the Queen, suggesting inviting him to UK, and he accepted that. So with a president's visit, usually that means a lot of rich contents need to be prepared. What might be these contents, and eventually how they're likely to be prepared during this process, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, a lot of it is about economic exchange and economic growth. We'll probably want to get to that a bit later, but it's amazing that that, and nobody expected it, that Prince Charles would be received by Xi Jinping, and that is a tremendous step. Also, the invitation by the Queen to Xi Jinping. So I mean, I think this is a major step and could open up some really, really important economic exchanges, as well as probably a bit of change in terms of international relations, so that Britain is making some important gestures towards China, and I think vice versa.
All right, let's come back to you.
It's just as important, and surely probably more important, and we'll be getting more coverage in the UK, the Prince William's visit to China than his visit to Japan. So I think that's really, really interesting.
It is really interesting to look at the footages coming from Japan when Prince William was there, what he was doing, what he was doing, particularly on the stage and off the stage with the Prime Minister Abe, at least observations coming from this part of the world. Mr. Cui, what kind of balanced game is Prince William representing possibly the British politics here in Northeast Asia, particularly for China and Japan relations on the one hand, and on the second hand, what about the role that Professor Lash earlier illustrated that UK wants to play inside Europe and in the rest of the world?
Yeah, exactly. I think this to make a balance diplomacy is always a tradition for UK foreign policy. It doesn't work in Europe and also this time maybe for Asia. And we understand it because now for UK, both China and Japan, very, very important trade partner. And so I think that it's understandable for Prince William to pay this visit. But I don't think we should argue so much about who is the first and who is the next. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I think that
there has to be a first, there happens to be a next, right? It just happens that way.
Because the focus would be the balance, okay? The balancing.
What kind of balancing do you think he is playing here?
Yes, that's
is
also
it successful?
Yeah, that's also related to this kind of role of the UK in the world, not only in Europe and also in the world. And so far, I think that UK want to play a role in the international community as a super partner, which means no matter which kind of countries, including China, Japan, or some other countries, once it's beneficial for UK's economy, everything, okay, we could be a partner. So I think that's a principle and the focus of this visit by Prince William.
Well, Professor Lash.
But China, Japan, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, only that, if you read the Financial Times or The Economist or see it on the BBC, China has a profile that Japan just doesn't have in the UK. China is surpassing the US in a few years in GDP. And it's quite clear that, that it's center stage in all the press in the UK, which Japan isn't.
I can see you're very excited about our topic as a China expert coming from the UK.
sorry,
Keep on dropping things, but it doesn't matter because it is an important issue. And it is not just politics, in fact, but also some of the other aspects, because Prince William is well known for protecting the wild animals. And not long ago, China just passed a recent law and regulation banning on the ivory carving, which of course is a big gift, I would say, to Prince William for his cause at least. And meanwhile, he's talking about soccer to our president, who is a big fan of soccer. But things like these, Professor Lash, how much do you think this would really warm up the personal relations between these two, and also between the British politics, the British people, and also the Chinese public who are watching this on their screen over the next 4 days?
Well, I think that it's a nod in the direction of a certain kind of environmental, consciousness. And it gives China much more respectability in the eyes of the UK as being oriented towards the environment. I mean, I know, because I live in China a lot of the time, how obsessed the Chinese and also institutions are with environmental protection now in the last 5 or 6 years. But I don't think that's commonly known inside the UK. And so I think it's it's a very positive move, the reception there in terms of the UK perception of China, and very, very different to what William's father did previously.
All right. We want to thank both.
Say anything there.
Well, we want to thank both of you for being with us. We are looking forward to what's going to be the results of this 4 very exciting days, and how it's going to be likely covered by the British media, and therefore the public inside the UK will be able to see it. Thank you so much, Mr. Cui, and also Professor Lash. Thank you.